The world is shaking. A perfect storm of COVID-19, war in the Ukraine, and the climate crisis is shaking the foundations of life across the planet. The Governor of the Bank of England has warned that the horsemen of the apocalypse are coming for us. With rising inflation and soaring cost of living, the stability of our society is slowly unraveling. The idea that we have come from nowhere, are going nowhere, and should make the best of it by doing whatever makes us happy is no longer good enough. There is a growing feeling that our story is running out. Amidst the wreckage, many of us are starting to look for a solid foundation on which to build our lives. Is there a way to break the cycle of what goes around comes around? To know the joy of making a difference in the world? And to have something beyond shattered dreams, to look forward to tomorrow. The oldest institution in Wales, with the deepest history and richest traditions, is stirring. As the doors have reopened after being closed for the first time in 8 centuries, something has changed. The Church in Wales is recovering its historic mandate to become the Church of Wales once again by joining with others to say something into the present crisis of forgiveness for yesterday, meaning for today, and of hope for tomorrow. Where our story has run out, another better story is about to begin. The greatest story of all, which has transformed individuals and families, towns and cities across the globe. The story which has given birth to architecture and music, to literature and science. A bigger story than anything we have ever been able to write for ourselves. A better story in which there is room for us all to be who we were made to be. An old story which begins where our story ends. But the land of song shall sing again, and sunset turn to sunrise.
Come on, Marcus, come and join me on the platform here. I hope you got that. I think we were a bit sub-heavy, but the commentary was brilliantly done. Take the mic there, have a seat. And it has a Tolkien-esque sort of feel to it. We'll come to the Hope Cymru film in a moment, but give us a fix on you, Marcus Nelson, Gabalfa.
Yes.
Is it on?
Yeah. There we are. Yeah, sorry. It's lovely to be with you, everyone. It's so good to see you. I am Marcus Nelson, not from this part of the world originally, so I apologise for that, but from Downpatrick, County Down, Northern Ireland, and married to my wife Della from South Africa, 4 children, and based in St. Mark's in Gabalfa, just a few miles down the road.
So, look, you're a good Anglican, and there are good Anglicans still left in the Anglican Church.
One or two.
Yeah, well, my daughter and son-in-law are in Anglican ministry, so I'm going to say that, aren't I? But I genuinely mean that. We really do want to know how to pray for, support, and love, and invest in the gospel in the church in Wales. But it's a challenge, isn't it, for you guys, local ministry, evangelical, Bible-believing people like you. So, from your perspective, is the church in Wales on the way out? Is that a fair description, an exaggeration?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You may have seen somebody at the University of South Wales a few years ago said that they used the R number modelling that we all became familiar with during the pandemic, and said on the back of that the Church of Wales would be extinct if it carries on at the sort of trajectory which it is at the moment within, now less than 15 years. The numbers dropped in less than a 30-year period from 100,000, 25,000. We don't even have the latest sort of stats. So that doesn't bode well in itself if it is a closed system in which it's all about human cleverness and resources and trying to do things differently, trying to do things better. But it has been around for a very, very long time. It depends who you read, but maybe 1,900 years or thereabouts, some of the sort of early writers would say. And as I'm still fairly strongly convinced that it's not a closed system and that it can be open to Jesus Christ and his power to revive, renew, and transform, and through the church in Wales to be a blessing to many others as well. So I don't think the story's over, but that there's more to come.
Yeah, and I guess that's what Hope Cymru video is about. The story's not over. It was brilliantly told as a production. From your perspective, what do you hope Hope Cymru will achieve? And tell us a little bit about its origins and its purpose.
Thanks so much, Peter. Yeah, I don't know, within the Church in Wales, perhaps, other denominations as well, you'll all know much better than me, there is a profound loss of confidence, this sense that everything that we've got to say has been heard a million times before, and everybody has lots of clever reasons for not believing it. And so we have increasingly gone to other ways to try and engage people on the outside. My experience is, as I spend more and more people on the outside, that is not true at all in any way. There's an incredible openness. The pandemic, 2020, 2022, that probably nailed the lid on the coffin and the whole postmodern story of, just trying to make the best out of nothing and just do whatever makes you happy. More and more people on the outside are utterly fed up and know that story's not going anywhere. We know that what's happening in British, Western, and Welsh society, following much wider patterns, there's internal weakness, external pressure, and there's an incredible openness I'm finding, especially among sort of the working classes, to actually have answers at the deepest level in life. Sometimes people say to me, oh, you can't ever talk about hell anymore. I don't know if anybody else has ever heard that one. And I find that utterly bizarre, because I don't need to convince many, many people that hell is real. They think that hell is the only thing. So I spoke to somebody recently, said, my whole life feels like a black hole, and I'm caught in this cycle of addiction that I can't get out of. Is there anybody who can help me? And at that point, I'm able to say there's one person in all the world. What Hope Cymru has come out of, I suppose, is a very simple vision. It's that little thing in Tolkien, if you remember that part when I think it's Pippin said to Gandalf, was there ever any hope for Frodo? And then Gandalf said, well, there wasn't really much hope. There was just a fool's hope. You might say it's fool's hope, Cymru, in a sense, that all it is this very simple conviction that if Wales was to see Jesus Christ again, who he really is, what he has done, the founder of the universe, the master of the galaxies, coming down to lift us up, to die in our place at Calvary, that the whole nation might, as has happened many times in the past, catch a fresh glimpse of him. And some of us may know it was Nathan Mundy. Nathan's got a far better voice than I do, so he kindly, and he was at Heath Evangelical Church, kindly did the reading for this little video. There was one moment when Nathan and I were speaking recently on sort of one of the videos that we tried to produce, and I think in just a moment, I caught this glimpse of an old world as Nathan was speaking about William Morgan in the translation of the Welsh Bible in the 16th century. And I saw that if that older world was reborn and that Jesus is able to do that, that in a moment, the whole nation could fall in love with Jesus once again. And all these problems of spiritual decline and, all kinds of forces crowding in that can make us very negative and pessimistic, all of that would vanish in a moment as the nation once again bowed at the feet of Christ at Calvary. So hugely optimistic, and it's really just retelling that story.
And for you and for the Hope Cymru guys, it's a 10-year project.
Yeah.
So what are the staging posts in that 10-year project? What's happening this coming year?
Yeah, so I wish we could work much more quickly. We're working as quickly as we can with other constraints, but so firstly, we're just trying to retell the story of Jesus from, the origins of the universe unto a never-ending future. We're trying to do that over 10 seasons of material, and then we'd hopefully have 10 books alongside that. So we've got the first 3 seasons, the first 3 books, well on the way, and hopefully those should be available before too long.
And how did this go down with the bench of bishops?
We're hoping that there's going to be more support in the future for these things, and slowly building partnerships and endeavoring to work together, as positively and constructively as we can. Daniel Rowlands, those that heard him preaching said that you couldn't really, you wouldn't be able to tell somebody else who hadn't heard him preaching what it actually felt like, that there was no one like him since the Apostle Paul was an Anglican, and that's what we want to see again in Wales as we retell the story of Jesus. So we're doing our very best, working as quickly as we can, and then just before Christmas, we have an event in Cardiff Depot, which is like a huge sort of warehouse. I'm far too old and uncool to have ever been there, but I hear that, younger people go there. And we have J. John, that some of us may have heard of, the Penderys Male Voice Choir, a kids choir, lots of others taking part, and just another opportunity to share the good news of Jesus with people in Cardiff.
Good. Last question before we then invite Nan and Julian on the platform here. In terms of the challenges that you face as an evangelical pastor in a spiritual climate, Anglican climate, that is presumably quite a tough one to operate in. What keeps you going, and what keeps you in it to win it?
It's a good question, Peter. I think it is a feeling and a sense that the story isn't over yet, mm-hmm. that these patterns and cycles that we find ourselves in at this point has happened many times before, and then small numbers of people recapture a vision of Jesus and who he really is and fall in love with him again, and then that sets the church on fire, and then the whole nation is transformed and changed. And it's an incredible privilege to be able to, in some small way, talk about Jesus in these ways, and hope that many others will get on board with that and do a much, much better job than we are doing. So I'm hugely excited and optimistic for the future.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Peter.
Marcus Nelson, thank you.